Hi, I'm Tim Davis with All County. I want to give you 5 steps to getting a good tenant in your property. Number 1, what is the market rent? How do you find that? Well, sometimes it could be very difficult to figure out what the market rent is. So you don't know what it is unless you can actually find some resources that can help you figure that out. And one of the resources that we know about is a website called Zillow. I'm sure you've heard of Zillow. And I'm sure that you've heard of Trulia. Those two websites have data. They get data from a lot of different resources. And they use that data to give you good information about what the market rent is for that area. Another one that's very popular right now is called Rentometer. You can go up online and go into Rentometer and put in your address, and it'll give you an idea of what the going rate for rent is in that particular spot. The best way to really find good market rent is through the MLS, which is a local service that only realtors have access to. So if you know a realtor or somebody who's willing to help you do a little what they call a CMA, or a comparative market analysis, that could be helpful to get a real accurate number for your market rent. Number 2, how do I market the property? Well, again, Zillow and Trulia are good places to market. A couple of places that are very difficult nowadays because they are free is a Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. There's a lot of scammers out there, and they can get your property and market it themselves, and you'd never know that they had rented your property to somebody who thought that they were renting it from you, and they ended up not renting it from you. I've had that happen a couple of times, and we've headed it off and we've taken care of it. But one of the things that we do is we market properties on the MLS, which is a great place because other realtors get involved. They have tenants that they're working with, trying to help place those tenants. And so we cooperate with other realtors, and we give them referral fees when they bring good tenants to the properties that we manage. Third, how is it best to screen my tenants? Well, screening tenants can be tricky because you have to be very careful. You have to use all the fair housing rules and make sure that you don't get out of line on that. But there are some online screening services that you can use, and those services are pretty good. They could be costly, could be $25, $30, but always have the tenant pay for that in their application fee. And that way you can make sure that you have your expenses covered on that. And oh yes, make sure that you use an enforceable lease in your state, because it's very important. So be very careful about that. Make sure that you either have your state approved lease or one that has written by an attorney that you know and can trust. Number 4, how do you collect rent? Well, there are some ways that people have collected rent for years. You show up at the tenant's door and you collect rent in cash. Well, that's not really the best way. I know a lady who ends up doing that all the time, and she ends up at the bank with counterfeits quite often, which is unfortunate, and she really doesn't know where she got them from because she has 40 or 50 tenants that she collects rent like that, and so that could be problematic. You could have them mail the rent in. Do you really want your tenants to know where you live? I don't know about that. So maybe a post office box, or sometimes I've seen where landlords will have drop boxes at banks, but sometimes that could be problematic also, because if they don't drop off the full amount of rent, the bank won't know what that full amount is supposed to be, and they might take the rent, and then you might have a little bit difficult time enforcing your lease and getting the rest of your rent. So that might not be a great option. There are some online services now. I saw one recently called cozy.com, and they help you collect rent. Some of the softwares that are out there, Buildium and those, they have rent portals where people can go on and sign on and pay rent that way. So collecting rent, that could be a problem. Now, the last thing that I would encourage you to do is keep your tenants in compliance with the lease that you had them sign. Keeping tenants in compliance means if they are late on their rent, according to what your lease says, you need to enforce that by giving them their 3-day notice on the proper day. Make sure that it expires on the proper day, because you can't count weekends and holidays. So you got to make sure that you count those days and make sure that the 3-day is accurate, because a judge may throw it out if it's not, make you redo the whole thing. So 3-day notices, 7-day curable notices. That's if they are doing something that they're not supposed to do that's part of the lease. You need to give them that 7-day notice to cure that thing. Get that out there and don't let that slide. That's very important. And then, of course, if they do something that is against the law, that is an offense that you just don't want them there anymore, then a 7-day non-curable is a form that you would use to get them out of the property. Any of those you can evict on any of those 3 notices if they're served properly, and you have a proper case, but you have to follow the laws about that. So if you if this is a little bit more than you want to bite off, you can always call All County. We're here to serve you. We manage over 400 properties in the Central Florida area, and we would be glad to take on your property. So thanks very much for watching this video. And if you have any questions, you can look us up on the web, www.allcountypolk.com or www.allcountymetro.com, or call us at 863-510-5965, 407-624-4000. Thank you very much.